Like, it's just like real life.
Guess what? Every time somebody buys a handheld PC that is not a Steam Deck, what's the first thing that gets installed on it anyway?
The story is also important, but if the gameplay loop isn't good, then nobody's going to want to play.
You could buy it, and then I wouldn't have to buy it. And he goes, well, I don't want to spend the money. And I said, well, I don't want to spend the money. Welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. It's me, Bill Fairchild. It's my good friend, Baldly Rudy. I screwed that up.
It's okay. It's okay.
Can I ask, why is it Baldly? Like, what is that?
So, oh man. So Baldly, it was a pun on words, and it was a horrible pun. But now that I have all the handles for everything, I don't want to change it. It was supposed to be like boldly, like to be boldly myself. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put baldly, and it'll be like an own pun. And then my manager was like, this is crazy because no one's going to go ahead and find you online when they search for you. Everyone's going to search Baldy Rudy. And I was like, well, I can't change anything now because it's all set in stone, I feel like.
Oh, you can change whatever you want. Like this channel that people are watching this podcast on was originally, so I used to have a different channel called Run Jump Stomp where I did a Nintendo themed podcast. And then a friend of mine who also did a Nintendo themed podcast, he and I got together and we made another podcast about Google Stadia. And that's what this channel was. And then I would say probably about 3 or 4 months before Stadia decided to call it quits, we said, we have nothing else to say about this topic, so we have to rebrand. And I don't remember how long ago it was. It was when we built this room. My wife and I hired somebody to build this room for us. She was telling a friend of her at work, a friend of hers at work, like about the construction that we were working on. And my wife called it the man cave. But she and I had a joke that we were like, I don't do anything manly in here. And so her friend said, well, you should call it the NerdNest because it's kind of like a bird nest. And that's like this room predates the channel name NerdNest, but that's where the name NerdNest came from. So you can change the name of your channel at any time and everybody's going to still find you. But I don't think you should because Baldly Rudy is, I wouldn't say memorable because I always want to say Baldy Rudy.
Exactly.
Because as we're both bald guys. I thought that's what it was for years. I just misread it every single time I saw your name. But I was like, if you type in Baldy Rudy, it still comes up. So you're fine.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be okay. I'll just keep it as is.
That's right,
man. Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Before we get started, I wanted to say thanks to Rudy for joining me yet again. I want to start off by talking about prices because prices are going up yet again. Microsoft just announced that they are raising the prices of the Xbox again in the US. And I'm going to bring this up on screen for the people who are watching over on the YouTube channel. But this says that an Xbox Series S with 512 gigabytes is now $400. A Series S with a terabyte is $450. A Series X, all digital, no drive in that, is now $600 or will be as of October 3rd. And then a Series X normal is $650. And then if you want to get the Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Special Edition, it is $800. Now, when we look at prices like this, first off, I mean, it's nice to have, I'm going to make the joke that everybody has made. It's nice to have something in my house that's getting more valuable over time because I have an Xbox Series X, even though I really don't use it very often. But it made me think, well, okay, we're still waiting to find out what the price is for the Xbox ROG Ally and Ally X, the new handheld from Microsoft. And if this is how much their home consoles are going to be, how much is this handheld going to cost? Rudy, what's your reaction to, what do you think of the price is going to be based on these prices?
For the Xbox Ally X and Ally?
The black one. I don't care about the white one, and nobody should get that one anyway. The black one is the one that you would want to get anyway. What do you think about, like, what's that going to be?
It has to, like, looking at that, man, I'm like, it's probably going to be like at least like $1,999 is what I'm thinking would be like the most hopeful price. I don't see $899 being a thing, which I saw was a rumor at one point. That's no, it has to be $999. And it kind of hurts, not gonna lie.
Do you think that they had planned on doing $899 for that? But then, I mean, obviously the tariffs are the reason why these prices are going up. But yeah, I mean, they knew about the tariffs before they made these announcements, because I'm pretty sure that the original announcement for the Xbox ROG Ally X, and I think that was after the tariffs were announced. They weren't enacted yet, but it was after that, right? Am I remembering that right? That was like March?
Yeah, they increased the prices, but I think that I want to say that they did it quietly, if I remember correctly, because they did, have everything set up. And I mean, it's really disheartening, because I feel and this is just me playing, I think that without the tariffs in the equation of everything, it would have been significantly less across the board. Because, like, let's be real, Bill. Like, when you buy tech, that, eventually tech is going to be a depreciating thing because of the performance that you get out of it.
Yeah.
This is the first generation where you actually have to pay more as time goes on. It's crazy, man. So when it comes to the Ally X, the Xbox Ally X, I 100% believe that they were trying to keep it at that $899 price point. They, tested the waters with, I believe it was $699 during the holiday seasons last year, to kind of like, entice people to buy an Ally X. It's just, I'm curious. I'm excited because I think that that's going to be this generation's kind of like middle point, especially when you compare it to the Legion Go 2. But only time will tell. Tariffs or no tariffs, I don't know, man. What do you think?
So I think that originally those were probably the prices that they were hoping to hit. But now they've decided, okay, well, we have to raise prices because of the tariffs. So again, by the way, is this the second time? I think it might be the third time, but I think it's the second time that Microsoft has raised prices. Sorry for there's motorcycles going by my house right now. This is the second time that Microsoft has raised prices. Sony has raised prices multiple times as well. So the cost of these home consoles keeps going up. And if Microsoft and Sony are doing that, well, then I'm sure that Microsoft is going to raise the price of, they wanted it at this price, but I'm sure that they're going to have to raise the price on these handhelds that are coming out. And if you look at like the Lenovo Legion Go, which I believe you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the price of the Lenovo Legion Go being $1,350. When you look at that having sold out, and we'll talk about the selling out of the Lenovo Legion Go 2 in a little bit, it just makes it obvious to me that Microsoft has to raise the price on this. And I think if you say $999, I think that's the low end. I think the white one might be able to hit $999, and the black one is going to be matching or maybe just a little bit under the Lenovo Legion Go 2. And that is really, really painful, especially when you can buy an LCD Steam Deck for $400 or an OLED Steam Deck with 512 megabytes, megabytes? Gigabytes. 512 megabytes, that'd be terrible. Yeah, the big ones. You could buy one with 512 gigs for $550, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that it makes it really tough to recommend these new Windows handhelds to people. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And like, that's the thing, I will say that I automatically think that the Xbox Ally X will be cheaper than the Legion Go 2 by the screen alone. Like the screen is the same screen that has been there since the original Ally, and and this is my assumption. My assumption is that the price of that has been, dwindled down to, a science at this point. But with, inflation, the rising cost of everything, tariffs, who knows?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I forgot that they're using the same exact panel that they've been using since the original ROG Ally, the white one, not the ROG Ally X. And maybe that's because they bought so many of them that they're just like Scrooge McDuck. They got a vault filled with these panels just waiting for them to go in devices, and they're swimming around in there. I think that, yeah, maybe they will be able to hit that $1,000 mark that you're talking about.
I'm hopeful, man. Really. My wife would be much happier if they could.
So are you going to buy one? Because I have a hard time like looking at it and saying, yeah, I got to pick one up, because even though I want one, if for no other reason than to make a video about it and try it out and tell people my thoughts on it, I like, depending on the price, I'm probably just going to say, nope, not happening, especially with what everybody in the tech YouTube stuff is calling the viewpocalypse happening right now, where everyone's views are down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. So yeah, normally, it's so funny because I have people in the comments that always say that, oh, this guy's sponsored, he's shilling out over this stuff. And I'm just like, no, this is why there's a sponsor from a third party company that's on this video so that I can freely talk about the tech without any, issues at all. But like every piece of tech that I have here, I buy with my own money. And if I do not, that's something that I include in the video. With the Xbox Ally X, unless Asus decides to send me one, I'm probably gonna go ahead and buy it myself. The Legion Go 2, when the pricing got announced, I was on the couch in my living room downstairs with my wife, and we were having breakfast and everything. And I was like, "Oh, honey, the price of the Legion Go 2 was announced." She's like, "Oh, cool. How much is it?" And I was like, $13.50. And she was like, do you have to buy it? Like, do you really need to buy it? And that's where I was like, probably not. Maybe I could buy one like open box from like Best Buy, eventually one day. But I'm in no rush whatsoever.
But you are going to get the Xbox one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's got the Z2, the AMD. Is it AI Z2E or Z2E AI? The one that has the NPU in it. That's the one that I want, because the one in the MSI Claw 8 or the Claw A8, I saw one of the commenters went ahead and said that does not have the AI in it. So it's a separate, a different chip. It still has the Z2E, just doesn't have the NPU that's in there, as far as I can tell. Correct me in the comments. And that gets me excited because, that means that you're going to be able to have that upscaling that they were talking about. And there's just so many things that are there. I haven't tried the Xbox full screen experience yet, but that's a whole other conversation entirely, man. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting that one. That might be my go-to this gen.
Okay. I'm still thinking about it myself, just because it is, it's going to be expensive. And I got to be honest, like, you said earlier, this guy is paid or it's sponsored, so he's saying what the companies want him to say. I do get stuff for free from time to time, and guess what? It does not change how I feel about this stuff, because I am looking right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 handhelds not within arm's reach, but pretty damn close. I need another handheld, like I need a hole in the head. And it doesn't really matter that this one gets 15% extra frames per second, because 98% of the time I'm playing Balatro or Animal Well or just simple games like that. Like, I'm really not pushing these devices that hard. And most of the time when I do a review, I'm just talking about like how it feels or whatever. And if I do a benchmark, then I don't know how I could lie about that. But people always just assume that if you got it for free, then you're bought and paid for. And I'll tell you, like, plenty of times, I would say at least 3 times, I have had somebody who has sent me something for free, and I have put out a video, And then they said, well, I don't like what you said. And I said, well, that's too bad for you. There was another time where I had a sponsor who didn't like what I had to say. And I said, well, then you can keep your money and I'll box it up and send it back to you. I'm really not interested because the audience, their trust is far more important than a couple of bucks. Like, I do get sponsors. Sponsors don't bring in that much money when you really think about it. So it's not like I'm like swimming in cash, like, again, Scrooge McDuck around, that reference, bringing that back. So I wouldn't think that anybody, I think people just assume that because they would be a horrible shill, that they just assume that you are a horrible shill or I am a horrible shill. And like, I can't pretend to be excited about a thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm not an actor, man.
Right.
I'm not winning Oscars for this stuff. And, like, Carrie has this saying where he said, trust is a currency. And like that to me, like he said that once to me and I was like, damn, that's a good saying. Like I feel like that, I don't know, like that's just the mantra that I adopted from him. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like, this is what I want to go ahead and like kind of like have as like one of the key central pillars in terms of like my content and everything. Which, by the way, if Carrie was supposed to be here, it's okay. We have no beef. Yeah, we have no beef or anything like that. He's just testing out the GPD when, like,
he is. He's literally running benches right now.
I know. And like, I saw him like post it on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, that looks so sexy. But 2.2K or 2.3K, I'm like, my wife would
expensive.
Not. Yeah. It is what it is.
And that's another thing. Like, we can't afford to keep, like, Bob Wolf, friend of the show. Yeah. He just put out a video saying, we can't keep doing this. These things are too expensive. And Bob is like you. Most of the time he buys stuff. If he can get a review unit, then he'll get a review unit. But when he can't, he buys it. And they're just getting too expensive for regular people to buy. And it also makes me look at these devices and say, I don't know if I want to cover it, because it's priced out of most people's, like, most people would just look at the price and say, I'm out. I'm not going to bother watching a video about that. Even if I find it super interesting, which I do, like, I want to try it out and see what like the D-pad is like, and see what the improved, that screen on the Lenovo Legion Go 2 looks just amazing. But it's so expensive that it's like limiting the available audience who would be willing to watch a video about it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, if it's very difficult. Like, there are some people that enjoy looking at tech that is, out of their price range, and that's fine. But for me personally, unless it's something that is extremely interesting, or like, I watched that video from Bob as well. What do you call it? He called it like a rectangle. Like, it's the same rectangle as the previous rectangle. Like, unless there's something that's really, really interesting, it's kind of, you're just pushing the specs and seeing what those numbers are, but they're like 10 to 15% gains every single time. So, but the price point doesn't reflect a 10 to 15% increase in price. that's the crazy
right. It's
part.
Double the price of the original one, which is nuts to me. And like this, I'm sure that the Xbox Series, the Xbox ROG Ally and Ally X, I'm sure that they're going to be really nice. They look comfortable. Yeah. I think that they look ugly, but I also think that they look comfortable with those nice handles.
Right.
But the performance increase over a Steam Deck or over other Windows handhelds is not enough to justify how much these things are costing. And it's because Microsoft is if you look at it, Valve is the only company that can really get that price down there, because they have a store. And so they sell you the device, and then you keep buying games from them. Well, what happens when people buy the Xbox ROG Ally X? Sure, you buy that, and then what do people do? They load up Steam, because nobody buys games from Microsoft, even though they have a store. They just don't. It just becomes a Game Pass machine and a Steam machine. And the people who are buying it aren't buying it and then going out and getting Game Pass. They're probably people who already have Game Pass. So even Microsoft can't really take advantage of the same thing that Valve gets to because they don't have a store that is enticing people to buy from them.
Yeah, spot on.
All right. Well, that didn't stop Lenovo from having to cancel some of their pre-orders for the Legion Go 2 because they sold out. And it was funny because Rich sent a message to me. He sent a little link and he said, "This is proof that I don't know what I'm talking about," or something. And like I was busy because we had talked about that nobody would buy this because it's so expensive, essentially. You know what I mean? And then I was busy doing like schoolwork because I'm a teacher. I was doing work. And I looked at his message and then I set it down and continued to do the work. And I was thinking in my head, well, that just means they didn't make very many of them. And then Kerry jumped in and he was like, yeah, they made 10 and sold 20. I was like, yeah, he's not wrong. He's like, everything sells out. All tech hardware sells out because they do the same thing that Nintendo did years ago. They realized we need to sell out because then we could put out an article that says that we sold out, and that will drive up demand. And I don't blame them for doing that. That's the right way to do it. What do you think about Lenovo canceling pre-orders for the Legion Go 2?
I mean, I think I forgot who it was. I think it was some guy on Twitter. He tweeted that, and I was like, nope, that's cap. That's 100% cap. Like, I don't think that. First off, okay. Marketing and advertising is a lot about perception and semantics. Let me just get that right out of the way. When you have a product that is sold out, it draws a lot of intrigue because then it goes ahead and sets a precedent in being like in the customer's mindset of, ooh, if this product has sold out, that means that there are plenty of people that think that this is worth the price. Then maybe I should probably consider getting it once it's finally available, right? And I have used this tactic as well when I've worked for like other companies in the past, and it works. It works. Over time, there is a steady trajectory of people that are intrigued by this. And that means that the next product that they release is going to get much more traffic, much more hype, and just overall higher conversions. I do agree with Kerry that they probably only made 10 and 20 people pre-ordered and they can say it's sold out. Because I mean, to me, it's just like, dude, come on, really? Like at that price, it doesn't sell me. It definitely doesn't sell my wife on that. And looking at the sentiment leading up, because I would post surveys on our community tab on the channel. The overall sentiment, they knew that it was going to be expensive, but people were like, yeah, no, like that's just too much. It's not worth it at that point. And I would rather wait for the next iteration to come out.
Right, because then this, then this one would end up cheaper. And the thing that you're talking about the things being sold out, Amazon does this all the time. When I am searching for something on Amazon, it's like, buy it now. There's only 2 left. Like, they do that in order to engage our stupid lizard brains in order to be like, oh, I got to buy that thing right now or somebody else, and then I'm not going to be able to have that thing. And like, this is something that I've talked about for years on various different podcasts that I've hosted, is that there's this weird thing in people's brains where they say, if somebody else can't get something, then it holds more value to me. Like, this is more valuable to me because it's scarce. And if it drives people to make purchasing decisions that I don't think that they otherwise would. Now, I'm not saying that the Lenovo Legion Go 2 is bad. And I'm not saying that it's not worth that price, because I don't know how much it costs to make that thing. I don't know how much the chip that goes into it is. I know that chip is pretty expensive. And so I feel like maybe that is the right price for this, and we're just spoiled by the Steam Deck coming in at $400. But then there was this article I read, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago, where they were just talking about how the people who are making all of these different handhelds, most of them are like laptop makers, they are losing sight of why people got excited about the Steam Deck, is that you could play your Steam library on the go and it wasn't super expensive. Like, it wasn't gaming laptop price. It was Nintendo Switch price. It came in at $400. Now the Switch 2 is $450. And I think the cheapest Steam Deck that I would recommend these days would be the $551, which is $100 more than the Nintendo Switch, but I think it's worth that. I don't know. I think it's really, really strange. I'm very curious what everybody thinks about these prices in the comment section down below, because I think that they are going to be very crazy. And here's what I'm really waiting for. And I have a question for you and for everybody who's watching this. How long do you think before Valve doesn't have a choice and has to raise the price of the Steam Deck? Because they don't make them here in the United States. They make them outside of the country. And so the tariffs are going to affect them too. I'm assuming they just have a big warehouse filled with the ones that are already here. And once those run out, they're going to have to raise the price. And so will Nintendo, just like Sony and Microsoft did. And I think that this is going to be luxury items. And they already kind of were luxury items, but I think they're going to be more luxury. What do you think? How long do you think before Valve has to raise the price on the Steam Deck? Or do you think I'm wrong and they won't?
Well, that's the thing. So, even with the original 64 gigabyte LCD model, Gabe said it himself. He said it hurt to get to that price point, but we knew that it was important to get to that price point. And I think that from a business perspective, they can take the hit financially, technically, because once they get it, all that money is going right back into the storefront because they're buying continuously. So they are in a unique situation, whereas all of these other quote unquote laptop manufacturers that are making handhelds let's be real, a lot of these things are essentially glorified laptops that just happen to have controllers attached to them. Absolutely. In essence. And I do agree that they are kind of losing what made handheld gaming special, because to me, the way that I see it, I like we talked last time, I'm playing Silksong right now, and I'm playing it on my Steam Deck OLED out of all the handhelds that I have. And it's a beautiful experience. It's 800p. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I don't need much else than this. And Carrie, whenever he does the majority of his tests, they're typically at 720, not 1080. Yeah. He's like, this is great. I'm hitting 60 FPS all the time. Now, for me personally, I prefer to hit 1080 whenever I can. But if that's going to impede the visual smoothness of things, then I'm just going to go ahead and go down to 720 or 900p. It doesn't matter. And I think that a lot of these manufacturers, they're like, well, let's go ahead. We're listening to what people say. We're going to give them the best and the biggest, and it's just going to do everything. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like you go to a buffet. And, you pay your entry fee, but there's so much there. You can't eat it all. You can't have it all. And now you're paying for it with your wallet. I think for me personally, I don't think that Valve will, I think if there was a Steam Deck 2, for instance, Bill, if there's a Steam Deck 2, it is not going to start at $399. It's not going to start at $450. It's not going to start at $500. I definitely see that being a 64 gigabyte model, if they were going to stick with that, would be $550 or $599. And what that would do is that would allow for us users to be like, well, I want to find my 2280, 2230 SSD, pop that in, call it a day, whatever it may be. And from there, we can go ahead and change whatever we need to change. The biggest thing that I think that Steam said, and correct me if I'm wrong, or Valve said, was that they wanted to have an increase in a significant increase in performance that would not impede battery life.
Right.
And that to me sounds pretty exciting. That's something that is worth it. I sincerely hope it's sometime soon.
I don't think it is. I honestly
know it sucks.
I think that when you look at the the amount of performance increases that we get with each new handheld that comes out. It's such a minuscule amount, and that shows me that they haven't hit that new plateau that hits a big enough performance increase without absolutely decimating the battery. Now, you look at things like the ROG Ally X, not the new one, but the original black one, where they didn't have a choice because they had less efficient chip than the Van Gogh chipset that's in the Steam Deck. So what do? They brute force it by putting an 80 watt-hour battery in that. And sure, that's something that Valve could do too. I would love to see a Steam Deck with an 80 watt-hour battery in it. That would be amazing. At the same time, I think that all too often, these other manufacturers, they fall into this trap of bigger number better. And what they forget is that bigger number better also means bigger number more expensive. And so when they increase the resolution to, what was the Lenovo Legion Go 2 is that 1650?
I think it was 1600. Oh, the Legion Go 2. No, that's 1200.
1200.
The Legion Go 2 is 1200, yeah.
And then the original one was 1650, right?
I thought it was 1600, but I could be wrong.
So 1600. Okay. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's a like that's double the resolution of the Steam Deck. And Rudy was just saying the Steam Deck is 800p and he's happy with it. Well, why do they have to keep increasing the resolution? When you increase the resolution, suddenly you have to have a more powerful chip in order to hit the same frame rates, or you have to lower the resolution, and then the game looks kind of soft because you're blowing up something that's a lower resolution up onto a bigger screen. Like all of these things, they have like trade-offs. And I think that Valve is doing, they seem to be the only ones that are doing the trade-offs the way that you should, where you say, okay, well, we can't do that because it's too expensive, or we can't do that because it's too big or too heavy or too this or too that. So here's what we're going to do instead. And everyone is champing at the bit for Valve to release a Steam Deck 2, but I think they're going to wait until this tariff situation blows over. And they also have to wait until the performance is there, which is why we've seen rumors that we won't see the next Steam Deck until 2028.
Dang, that's a spicy meatball, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that makes me realize that, because I mean, if that's the case, then it's 2025. Yeah, that's gonna be another 3 years, potentially 4.
I mean, would you, if you were running Valve, would you do this? Because guess what? Every time somebody buys a handheld PC that is not a Steam Deck, what's the first thing that gets installed on it anyway? Steam. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one way of like looking at it. I think that if I were running Valve, I would. That does make a lot of sense. I would look at the hard costs of actually making something that is attainable for the majority of people. I think when you look at GPUs, like there's such a minute portion of people that have the 90s and the 80s when it comes to the NVIDIA GPUs. Most of them have the 5060s or 5070s, or even this generation is pretty low. I think it was like the 3060 Ti's, 3070s. And I could be wrong entirely because I haven't looked at it the entire hardware survey. But if I remember correctly, most of the people go for the middle. They don't go for the high end. They don't go for the low end. They typically go for the middle. So I don't know, man. Like I don't think that the Legion Go 2 specifically is going to fail per se. There might be more demand than Lenovo anticipated, but I also, I kind of take it with a grain of salt whenever somebody says that their product sold out. If I just, it is what it is, man. But if I were Valve, I would be very cautious with the hard cost of how this is going to be. They want to be profitable, of course, but they don't want to, be not profitable.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steam hardware survey, and I haven't looked at it in ages, so I can't remember where to find what's the most popular GPU that's out there. And the only thing, I'm looking at video card description, but it's not organized by what's the most popular. Like, it's just like they're all in random order. So I can't find that right now, but I do think that you're right. Like, if memory serves correctly, and I don't want to slow down the podcast by searching for it. If memory serves correctly, I think the most common was like a 3050 or something like that.
It's as of July 2025, the most popular graphics card is a 3060 with a 5.1, 5.1% share of the survey respondents.
Okay, there you have it. So people aren't going for the highest end things, which is why devs need to make sure that they're doing more to optimize their games so that not only will they run well on the consoles, but they'll also run on lower spec hardware, and they'll run on things like the Lenovo Legion Go S or the Steam Deck and that kind of thing. And that's something that I think Randy Pitchford could learn from, because he is having not a fun time, it seems like, when it comes to Borderlands 4, which is a game I was very much looking forward to. I enjoyed the hell out of Borderlands 3. I had never played a Borderlands game before, and then I picked up Borderlands 3, and I played through it, and I had so much fun. And I know that everybody likes Borderlands 3 the least out of all of the Borderlands. I really had fun with that game. And I was looking forward to playing Borderlands 4, and I haven't picked it up yet just because I've heard such awful things about the performance. I really should try it anyway, though. I just don't want to spend that money right now. But he is like basically arguing with people on Twitter about how well his game is optimized. What do you think about the things that he's been saying lately?
Dude. This is like watching like a house burn down that isn't yours. It's like he's just been continuously fighting back with people saying, well, you build your own game engine and show me how it's done, and telling people, well, go get a refund, all of these different things. And I think that, especially in the digital age, in this era where we have things, feedback is going to come back regardless. If what's that classic Miyamoto saying where he's just like a delayed game will always be a delayed game, but a game that's released buggy will always be bad, or something like, I don't even know what it's called.
Something like that. Although I read somewhere that that's a misattribution. I don't know if it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know for sure. It sounds like something he would have said.
It does. Well, whoever said that is something that I think about. And this is a clear example of that. When you have something that is half-baked, that isn't ready to be, put out to the public, it's bad. And I've seen a couple of things. I've retweeted a couple of things. There have been, and some of it's like a memory leak. And then I don't know if you saw, Bill, Digital Foundry came out with a video where they actually looked at everything. And the longer that you play the game, regardless of console or hardware that you're using, the worse that the performance dips.
Oh, now, yeah. Well, I didn't see the Digital Foundry video, but I saw somebody playing on Xbox, and it basically just stopped. It became a slideshow. What were you saying, though?
No. Like, it's that bad. And, I've seen games released like that where it's just not running well at all. Most of the time, it's typically, a couple bugs here and there. Maybe there's some things that need to be tweaked. But from what I have seen, it looks like a memory leak. I could be wrong, but we'll just see what happens. I just think that the way that Randy's handling all of this is not good. You don't talk to your customer base like this. This is not how you sell games.
No, it's not. It kind of turned, like, I was interested in the game. My son came upstairs. He's like, because we have the Steam family sharing. He's like, yo, Dad, you gonna buy Borderlands 4? And I was like, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. And he's like, because I kind of want to play it. And I was like, well, you got a job. You could buy it. And then I wouldn't have to buy it. And he goes, well, I don't want to spend the money. And I said, well, I don't want to spend the money. So neither of us have bought Borderlands 4 yet, but we both kind of want to play it because we like the Borderlands games. But then he's saying things like, well, the game was made with DLSS in mind. Turn on DLSS. And I have to admit that I have played games and turned on upscaling and turned on frame generation, and I haven't really noticed any real drawbacks to turning those things on. And that's kind of the point that he made, but he makes his point in such a snarky way that it takes all of the wind out of his sails, and it just makes me think, I don't want to listen to him anymore. And I mean, he's a weird guy anyway, and as somebody who, if he wants to be weird, then be weird, that's fine. But don't be surprised when people stop paying attention to your game because you're constantly pissing them off. You know what I mean?
110%, man. That's the thing that I don't get. I'm like, take the criticism, go to your team and say, hey, these are the things that have been popping up. This feels like live beta testing. And you know, they're going to give it back to the team and they're going to be like, okay, these are the things that we need to focus on to fix the situation and rectify, you know? Like, it's just poor customer service, poor management, poor PR. Like, it's just no bueno.
Yeah, it feels to me like this is a game that's not done yet. And whoever's in charge at 2K Games, I don't know if Randy Pitchford gets to make those decisions because he's in charge of Gearbox, not 2K Games. Am I right? Am I remembering that right?
I believe so, but I could have sworn that he stepped down as CEO at one point.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever makes the decisions, I don't know who it is, somebody should have made the decision to hold off on this game until all that stuff was fixed. Same thing with Monster Hunter Wilds, which I played and I had so much fun. I probably have 40 hours in that game. I loved my time in that game, but I have a nice computer, and so it was running really well. There's a lot of people who don't have a nice computer, and it was boggling to me. It was mind-boggling to me that they went from Monster Hunter Rise, which would run on a Nintendo Switch at 60 frames per second, to Monster Hunter Wilds that required you to turn on FSR and upscaling and frame gen in order to have a good experience. What were you jumping in with just now?
No, I was just going to wave and be like, yes, I had issues with Monster Hunter Wilds when it came out, but I'm sitting here looking at the Wikipedia page for Randy Pitchford, and it looks like he's still CEO. It's just Gearbox was acquired by Take-Two Interactive in 2024, so the company continues to operate within Take-Two's 2K label and is led by Pitchford.
Right, but he's in charge of Gearbox, not Take-Two, right?
No, he's not in charge of Take-Two.
Right. So whoever, like Take-Two's the publisher, they're the ones who make that decision. So maybe his hands are tied. I still think he's weird and he should shut his mouth. But don't ship the game when it's not done. Listen to the apparent misattributed quote from Miyamoto. All right, let's talk about Valve for a minute, because we've been talking a lot about Valve and been gassing them up quite a bit, but I gotta say, I don't like one of the things that they've been doing. This is something that comes up quite often because Counter-Strike has loot boxes, and I've never, ever been a fan of loot boxes in games. It feels like gambling, and I've never liked it. I didn't like it when it was in Overwatch 2. I don't like it when it's in like the NBA 2K games. In my opinion, if a game has loot boxes in it, that constitutes gambling, and the game should be rated M. That doesn't mean that games shouldn't be able to have loot boxes. I just don't think that they should be available for kids. Well, the European Union got in and said, hey, loot boxes are not okay. You got to make sure that you're not doing these things. So Valve, instead of getting rid of loot boxes, they decided to change the way that they work so that they're basically skirting the rules in order to be able to get around the gambling regulations. And the way that it works now is apparently you'll get a thing and it'll say, okay, it shows you an item. And then you, the player, get to decide, do I want to keep that item? Or if I say, no, I don't want that item, they'll show you another item. but you can't go back to the first item. And that just seems to me like it is still a loot box, but they're doing just enough to get around the rules. And up until now, I've always kind of, because I have not really paid close attention to what they do in Counter-Strike, because I don't play Counter-Strike. I haven't really played Counter-Strike since the original, like it was just a mod, that was a very, very long time ago. And you didn't have loot boxes. You just went in, you bought your guns with fake dollars, you went and shot some dudes, and then you did it again. And there wasn't all these skins and stuff that people were collecting that then could be turned around and sold for real money. And so when you look at that, I was always kind of saying, well, I kind of gave Valve the benefit of the doubt and said, well, they're not running the stores that allow people to resell the skins that they're getting. That's something that's happening on top of that. And maybe they're going to change that in order to make things better. This tells me that no, this is operating as they intend, and they're perfectly happy to benefit from this gambling that's happening. And it just makes me feel kind of, I can't think of a word for it, like sketchy, if that makes sense. What do you think about them skirting the rules here? Or do you think I'm, making too much of it?
I've never been a fan of loot boxes either, personally. The idea of like surprise mechanics, as EA calls it, like that to me, dude, it like, these are kids, right? They don't understand like that there are. This is why, I don't think that kids should be on social media, but that's a whole different conversation. There are, different addictive things, mechanics that are within games. Loot boxes are one of those things. And when you give this to a child that will go ahead and play the game and then say, you know what, I don't like it here, but that's all right. I can go ahead and re-roll and see what else I can get, and then eventually start paying in order to go ahead and like get things going and whatnot. Like, that to me that's just icky, man. That's really, I've always seen loot boxes as like a very like predatory practice. No matter how, the CEOs of like all these publishers will tell you that, no, it's fine, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not cool. I've never been a fan of that. And I know that like us as adults, we know better. But when you have a kid,
sometimes,
sometimes, but when you have a kid that's like, 11, 12, 13 years old, and they think that they know, because when I was that age, I thought I knew everything in the world. They think that they know, and then they get their mom and dad's, credit card out of their wallet without them even looking, and then just saying, I'm just going to buy a couple of things and, see what happens. Dude, no, that's a no. No, please don't do that. That is such a bad thing to instill in a child that still has a mind that is developing, that yes, you can gamble. Yes, you can win. But how does the old saying go? The house always wins, right?
The house does always win, yeah.
The house always wins. So why are we putting something like this in, like, even if it's, rated M for mature, like you said, like, I don't know, man.
Which Counter-Strike is.
Right. But it's still one of those things where, I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this. When I was a little child, for Christmas, my parents got me the Killer Instinct SNES bundle. And I'm pretty sure I want to say like 10, maybe 11. And I'm sure you've played Killer Instinct. That it's not necessarily a rated E for everyone sort of a game.
Yeah, I love full gore.
Full gore, exactly, man.
Yeah.
Like, or Orchid. Orchid's like another one that's like one of my favorites. But like, yeah, dude, like I was sitting there and I got that. And like, my parents didn't know any better. So imagine how many parents are out there that are just like, oh, well, it's just a game. He says that he wants some Steam credit. I'll go ahead and I'll buy it for him, and we'll call it a day, without actually keeping track of whatever's going on. I don't know. I'm very cautious of these things because it's very easy to exploit.
It is very easy to exploit. And just to play devil's advocate here, because number one, it's on the parents to make sure that they know what their kid is doing, which is true. It is. But you also can't watch your kid every moment of every day. Like you would just be a heap of ash at that point. It's too much. You can't just, you got to give them room to go. And when it's in a game like Counter-Strike, I'm a lot more forgiving because that is an M-rated game. But when it's in a game like NBA 2K, where it's just a basketball game, like people go to the store, they buy the basketball game for their kid, they take it home, and then the little kid is doing their or FIFA or I guess FC, whatever it's called now.
EAFC,
EAFC, just rolls off the tongue. But then they're building like they're opening these card packs all the time. You go into stores, they have blind boxes everywhere now. Every store you go into, you can get like these little blind boxes that are marketed towards kids. You open up this package and maybe it's the thing you want, but maybe it's the one that you already got 6 times. That's gambling. If I rewind even further, when I was a kid, we would collect baseball cards. We would go down to the store and we would buy a pack of baseball cards, and then we would ride over to our friend's house and we would all sit around, open up the cards and see which ones we got, and then we would trade them. That's also gambling. So it's always been this thing, but it just seems so much more prevalent today than it was when we were young. And it just makes me a little uneasy about it. And I 99% of the time, I feel like Valve does the right thing because they realize that the right thing is usually the thing that's going to make them more money in the long run. But in this case, they know that they're going to make way more money in the short term and in the long run by doing the loot boxes, and I just don't like it. Anything you want to add in there before we move on?
I don't know. For me, it wasn't baseball cards. It was Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But I get the sentiment 100%.
All right. Well, let's move on to some really, really good news. The Stop Killing Games. I talked about this on the podcast many times. Well, basically, it met and then exceeded whatever the threshold was. I can't remember what the threshold was. It doesn't matter. But they met and exceeded that threshold. And then we had to wait to find out if they were real signatures that were actually from Europeans. And if it is, well, then it has to be discussed by the European Parliament, like whatever government agency. They got to talk about it. And maybe nothing will come of that. Maybe something will. But it turns out that 97% of the signatures are actually valid. So it looks like the EU petition is now going to enter the legislative phase where the legislators will then start talking about the Stop Killing Games campaign. And just to remind everybody what exactly that is, it's about games that come out that are online only, and then they get shut down after sometimes very little time, leaving the gamers who spent money on them with nothing to show for their purchase. The example that a lot of people were giving was it The Crew or The Crew 2? Do you remember, Rudy?
I think it was The Crew 2, but I mean, that could apply towards so many games, man.
Many games,
Anthem
yes.
was one. Like, there's a ton.
Yeah, there's tons of these games that you just cannot, people have paid money for them, and now they don't have them anymore. Sometimes the publishers do the right thing, like when Disney purchased Marvel, they shut down a Diablo clone that was based on Marvel characters called Marvel Heroes. They did the right thing. They gave everybody all of their money back, which was awesome. When Google Stadia shut down, they gave everybody all of their money back, which was awesome. But sometimes these companies are like, no, you don't get your money back because you played the game. Well, how are you to tell me how soon I have to play your game before I can't play it anymore? That's the kind of thing that I think that a lot of people were irritated with and didn't like. And they tried to do this ridiculous straw man argument where they said that the people who were trying to get the Stop Killing Games campaign to go through, we were saying that these companies should be forced to support their games forever, which is not what people were asking for. People were just asking for more motorcycles going by. I'm so sorry. People were just asking for the keys to the kingdom, essentially saying, hey, if you're going to shut the game down, then give us the ability to start to make our own servers so that you don't have to worry about it. And that was like a no-no from them. So they tried to fight back against it. Well, now we have the petition, and it looks like it's going through. This seems like great news. What do you think about it, Rudy?
Well, I definitely think that it's good news, like right off the bat. Like, I think this is fantastic. I do see like some sort of like scenarios where like the developers would be like, well, this was entirely coded to be 100% online. Therefore, having something where it would either be offline or be allowed to have the external servers running would cause some form of like security issues or whatever it may be. But I'll be honest with you, where there's a will, there's a way. That's always been the case. I genuinely believe that this is going to benefit all of gaming in the long run. And I do think that Disney, in that example, they did the right thing. Google did the right thing. And I feel like games should go that route where like if a publisher, like let's say, for example, a publisher says, you know what, this game, it's out and it's not selling well. It's Concord. We're just going to go ahead and just pull the plug after a week and, give everybody their money back. I know, but that's how it should be. If you're going to kill something, give people the money that they invested into your game back, or give them the ability to keep on playing the game. And I think that's probably where people want to go ahead and go. But I was going to ask you, let's say, for example, that because publishers technically own the copyright of the game, or is it the developers, or is this on a case-by-case basis? Because what I'm thinking is, let's say an indie developer comes into play and they're like, hey, we want to build this game. It's going to be semi-online where you can, do a solo campaign if you want to, or your buddies can go to hop in and you can do PvE, aka kind of like Monster Hunter. Okay. And all of a sudden, we launch and it's a complete total failure. It flops. We don't have enough funds to keep, like pushing this forward. So we're going to close down the studio. Therefore, everything falls onto the publisher at that point to keep it alive? Or would they go ahead and, if this passes in the European Union, they would go ahead and give it to the users to go ahead and keep the servers going? How would that work?
Well, they don't give the IP to the user.
No. I don't mean the IP. I mean like the keys to the kingdom, like you said.
Right. Well, I assume that it all depends on how it actually shakes out. Essentially, the people who started the Stop Killing Games campaign, they were just saying, hey, it's not cool that I paid money for a thing and now I don't have access to that thing because the people who sold it to me decided it wasn't popular enough for them to support. So give us a way to play the game offline or to roll our own servers, and we will be happy. I think that that's all that people are asking for. And sometimes that's come through and worked really well. For example, an old MMO that I spent way too many hours playing, EverQuest.
Oh, EverQuest is a classic.
It is a classic. It's so much fun. I met some of my closest friends playing that game years and years and years ago. I don't talk to them anymore, but for a very long time, we would speak every single day online when I played EverQuest, and we were like really, really close. Then eventually the EverQuest kept changing, but then there was this project called Project 99 where they would bring EverQuest back to the way it was when it first launched. And originally, I can't remember which company it was, because originally it was Sony Online, or originally it was some company, I can't remember, and then Sony bought them, and then they got sold. But whoever had the rights at the time said, you can't do that. And then eventually they said, you know what, go ahead. And so you can play on Project 99 and play the original EverQuest as it is. And it's like they don't worry that whoever's in charge is going to come after them and say, you got to shut this down. Same thing happened with City of Heroes. That's all that people are asking to do. And we've seen that it's already worked in the past. So why not just say everybody could do that? Let the users do what they will. If the company's not going to keep the game alive, then let the users keep the game alive. And if for no other reason, then video games are art and game preservation is important.
100%.
What are you finding out, man? I see you're looking things up.
No, I'm just seeing how many players are live right now. It's 1,026 people are playing Project 1999 right now.
Which is fantastic. A really, really small amount.
Dude, no, but like, they're still keeping it alive. That's the thing that I'm saying, man, is that, it's one of those things. I was talking to, I forgot who, I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I was like, she's an older woman and she doesn't get video games. So she was talking to me about, about her son. And I was explaining to her kind of like the synopsis of like The Last of Us Part 1 and kind of how that story arc was there and how that type of storytelling is what I love in gaming. But when you look at it, a game needs to have game mechanics that just work, right? The story is also important, but if the gameplay loop isn't good, then nobody's going to want to play. Obviously, classic EverQuest had a good gameplay loop. If there's still 1,000 people playing today in 2025, I think that people should have the ability to be able to keep things going. I was curious because I was like, would that fall onto the publisher who would technically own the rights, and then they would go ahead. So, but I think, like you said, it's a case by case basis. I think that once legislators figure that out, we'll be able to get a little bit more like clear guidelines on things, right?
Well, I hope so. I mean, one thing, I like that European Union is doing this kind of thing because we've already seen how it's affected everyone in the past. For example, when Valve did one thing that I don't think a lot of people liked, they didn't want people returning games or something, and the European Union said, no, you have to allow returns. Well, one thing that Valve could have done is they could have said, okay, we will allow returns in Europe. But instead they just said, we'll just do it across the board because it's easier for us. Same thing with Apple and USB-C. When they put Lightning in their phones because the USB, whoever's in charge of the USB-C, not protocol, standard. Whoever's in charge of the USB-C standard was taking too long, and Apple wanted to make something that was better than just regular USB. And so they ended up going with Lightning, and then USB-C finally came out, and then they were like, okay, well, we're not going to switch over now because we've done all this work to do Lightning. And that was a pain in the ass because you had Lightning cables and USB-C cables, and it was just like, ugh. But then the European Union said everybody has to use USB-C. And so Apple was like, oh, fine, we'll use USB-C. And now I have an iPhone with USB-C in it. And that means that I can just plug it into a lot of different things that I was not able to plug in my old phone to, which was awesome. So if the European Union does go through with this and they discuss it and they make a law and then the publishers and developers have to abide by that, my guess is that publishers and developers will just do that across the world. They'll say, it's not worth it just enforcing things in this country and letting it go in this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope that that's the case, man. Sincerely.
Me too. All right, let's talk about a little bit of history. Have you ever played Ghosts and Goblins?
Yes, but it forever ago. Like I had hair on my head when I was playing. It was a while ago.
Yes. Well, I mean, the game is 40 years old this month, and we recently were talking on the podcast about like difficult games, and like Ghosts and Goblins is a very, very difficult game. It is what Carrie usually refers to when he's on the show as Nintendo hard. In fact, It is one of the hardest games ever. It's very, very unforgiving. And I remember playing the hell out of this game when I was a kid. But it got me thinking about, like, we're always talking about these games that are really hard now, like Silk Song or Elden Ring and that kind of thing. And I was like, are those games hard compared to those older games that we used to play when I was young? And, you know, you weren't born yet, but when you were young too, I'm sure that the games were harder. I think games have gotten easier over time. And when I was a kid, I would muscle through a really hard game because I didn't have anything else to play. These days, I have so much other stuff to play that when a game's really hard, I'm just like, I'm not really interested, and I move on. Now, I will say I've never beat Ghosts and Goblins because that game's ridiculously impossible. And if you did, let us know in the comments down below. But do you think games are easier now or harder now than they used to be? And I don't think it's a cut and dry answer.
Yeah, it's not. I was going to say, because it really, really depends, because there are, I feel like, you know, the reason why last time that we were talking, that we podcasted together, I talked about Demon Souls on PS3 and like how impactful that was to me, because it was a breath of fresh air at that time, because there was a lot of hand holding in games. And without going into it, like Miyazaki didn't even let the higher ups at Sony like try out the game or know how difficult it was before it was actually shipped. And if I remember correctly, that's what happened. So when they realized how difficult it was, once reviews came back, they were taken aback, because they were like, oh my God, like, why did you make this so difficult? Yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. And then once they saw the success that Demon Souls had, Dark Souls was greenlit, you know? But that's, you know, a whole different conversation. What that did spark was the Souls genre and the Souls-like genre. And there are a lot of games that are out there. If you go onto Steam, you could probably, you know, look at the tag for games that are Souls-like, and you'll find a crap ton of games that are out there that fall into this genre. Now, primarily, you know, there is this idea that, you know, when you die, you lose whatever currency you have, and you have to go back before dying again in order to retrieve your currency. If not, then, you know, you lose it. But what that did spark is the idea that games don't have to be easy. I think that there's a lot of discussion in the gaming space about accessibility, which is a completely different topic, because I think that one of the oh my God, NeoWiz, the guys behind Lies of P, they recently added, with their latest DLC, like an easier mode to the game. And that was a Souls-like that people were like, oh my God, if you liked Bloodborne, you'll love Lies of P. And they kind of like kept them on par. But allowing the accessibility of being able to just play the game in a quote unquote easier mode allows for more players that don't want to invest all of this time into figuring out strategies and how people, you know, move around in the game in order to play the game. It just allows those people to be able to just play. Now, the counter argument to that, Bill, is that in Elden Ring, you could use summons, right? So summons would go ahead and allow the developers to implement a mechanic that's within the game that allows the game to be somewhat easier for you if you are in a boss fight. There's so much discussion on like difficulty and everything like that. There's so many things that we can like talk about, but those are kind of like my main points. In short, I think that it's kind of like, do I think games are easier? Yes, with like a huge asterisk in the corner, because it really just depends on your flavor of choice.
Yeah, I will say that I like when developers or publishers put in easier modes for people who want to play the easier mode. I feel like there's always the gatekeepers that are like, oh, you can't have an easy mode in there. Just play the harder mode. What do you care what I'm doing? But one of my favorite things is when they put in things that make it easy, that it's not just a menu where you're like, oh, I'm going to pick the easy mode. It's like, oh, no, it's easier because I'm picking this ability that I otherwise might not choose. And when when I play a game that lets me do that, it doesn't feel like I'm picking easy mode, even though what I'm doing is easier. It feels like I am selecting gear or abilities to better fit my play style. And I always think that that's a better way of doing it. So I appreciate it when they do stuff like that. My only real gripe with the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring is that you can't pause. Like, that's my only gripe with that, is when you can't pause a game, because stuff happens. You know, my wife yells up to me, "Hey, can you come help me with something?" And I can't pause a game in the middle of a boss fight. That's really frustrating. And I know that I know that you can, like, there's like a special way to pause in Elden Ring, but it's not as simple as just pressing the pause button, which is what I want. You know what I mean? It's like I got to do 4 buttons, and I'm like, what if I get killed in the middle of trying to pause the game when I could have just
hide in a corner, man.
Right, you got to hide in the corner. I don't know. I hate that. Anyway, what are the things about difficult games that you don't like?
So,
or do you really, really like that?
So first and foremost, I just want to add a little bit more. The best ways that I've seen a modern game handle difficulty is Final Fantasy 16, in the sense that there's equipment that you can put on that almost lets you auto play the game a little bit, auto defense, auto blocking, auto, things like that. And then my favorite example of a game that handles difficulty beautifully without having a menu where you can choose easy, difficult, or whatever it may be when you first start is Resident Evil 4, the original one. I don't know if the remake has that, because I haven't spent too much time in it, but the original one that came out on GameCube and eventually PlayStation 2 had this invisible difficulty that happened as you played. So if you died a lot, more items would pop up within the game to give you either healing capabilities, more ammo. There would be less enemies. But if you went through the game and you barely died, then there would be more enemies, less resources, and you'd have to do more item management and kind of just looking and choosing at where you actually use ammo. And I think that's kind of like the way that most developers should do things, where, if the player is, breezing through the game, let's crank up the difficulty without them knowing. If they're having a difficult time and they are dying a lot, let's tone it down a little bit. If there's anything, for me as a gamer, whenever there is an option to choose easy, normal or difficult, I typically go with normal, just because I feel like that's the intended difficulty from the developer's perspective.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that there's an option to go to hard. I don't really care too much whether a game is too easy or too difficult, because I like to play the way that the developer intended most cases. I can't even remember the last time that I went to easy, at all. I typically just go with normal, and I just grind through it. Even with Silksong right now, which last time, I don't know if you remember, I think I said that I was at 13 hours. I'm at 35 hours right now. So it's just I'm going through playing certain parts, and I'm just exploring it, enjoying my Metroidvania, experience. But yeah, I think I don't have issues with difficult games, man. Not in the sense that, I'm not the best gamer in the world. I'm average at best. But I'm
look at this guy. He's
stubborn.
Average. I'm not even there.
I'm stubborn, man. That's the big thing. I'm stubborn.
Yeah. I'm 2 hours into Silksong. So I decided to stop playing Hollow Knight and switch over to Silksong. And I am enjoying it more than Hollow Knight. I think I'm not sure why. I think maybe it's just the color palette is better. It's less there's just more colors to look at. But I am enjoying it. I've only played it for about 2 hours, so I haven't gotten to anything that's overly difficult. But I have died to stuff there where I'm like, come on, that's bullshit. I shouldn't have died to that. And it hasn't been enough to frustrate me so that I just shut it off, except for when I have a really long walk back. That's my only gripe with that game right now. Again, only 2 hours in. I'm sure that as I play more, it's going to ask more of me. But I wish that I could just pause and save wherever the hell I wanted, and then come right back to that right afterwards, so I didn't have to find a bench. Because there's nothing fun to me about the walk back. When I die and then I have to spend 10 minutes getting back to the spot where I died, that makes me just want to shut the game off, because I just did this bit and I don't want to do it again. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
All right. Continuing on with history, 31 years ago, we had Tekken 1. Did you ever play Tekken 1?
My first Tekken was Tekken 3. Then I played Tekken 2. I see Tekken 4 is over there. I know that I have Tekken 5, Tekken Tag. On Steam, I have Tekken 7 and 8. So yes, I have.
Okay. Are you a fan? I mean, it seems like you must be a fan if you have all of those different versions of the game. I was never a fan of the 3D fighting games. I always preferred 2D fighting games.
I like fighting games, but I feel the way that you feel about difficulty, the way that I feel that way about fighting games. Cause like the last fighting game that I really dove deep into was Guilty Gear Strive. And that was, oh man, so good. Like it was so much more accessible than previous iterations. And then Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I don't know if you've heard of it, but that's another one that
I've heard of it, but I'm not a Dragon Ball guy, so I don't know anything about it other than it's a Dragon Ball fighting game.
Fair. It's made by the same developer, so there's a lot of similarities, and they kind of have like a footprint where it's like, that if you do a quarter circle or a half circle, with these specific buttons, like you are going to do something with your character. There's just like different I guess like sub mechanics that are introduced with each and every single game. So they're the one that are doing the new Marvel fighting game that's going to be coming out
the
soon.
Tokon one.
Yeah, man, that's them.
That one looks so freaking good.
I know. It's so
right?
Good.
Like immediately I was watching, I can't remember when that got announced, but I was watching it get announced, and then as soon as it was over, I stopped whatever I was watching and I immediately went over to watch Maximilian Dude react to it, because I knew he would have a ridiculous reaction to it because he was just so excited for it. So that's the one. Marvel Tokon is the one where you're playing as like Captain America and Iron Man and Doctor Doom and all of these characters, but it's as if it's a Japanese anime. Like the art style is so Japanese looking, and it's just so good. Look, I cannot wait to try it out. Let me rephrase that. I cannot wait to get my ass kicked trying to play that game, probably even by the computer. But that game just looks so freaking fun. And it's a 2D fighter, which is always the ones that I like more. The only 3D fighter that I really ever got into was Soul Calibur, and specifically Soul Calibur 2. I played the hell out of that game. My favorite character was Kalik, the guy with the big staff. I had so much fun with that game. All right. 12 years old. We're getting back to something that you might actually have firsthand knowledge of because you're so young compared to my oldness. Torchlight 2. You ever played Torchlight 2?
No.
Really?
No, dude, no. I hold on. Let me look it up real quick, because I could have. You got to remember, man. Like I played a lot of games. Torchlight. No, I did not play Torchlight 1 or 2.
Okay. Well, there's actually 3, but the third one's not all that great. So it's basically a Diablo-like game, an ARPG. And it was just a really, really fun game. And it came out 12 years ago, was the original release of this game. And I put so many hours into this game. It's the kind of game where you're just going through a dungeon, getting loot, and then you had like a pet that you could send out to, like, one of the cool things about it is you never had to go back to town to sell. You could just say, okay, I've got my dog or my cat or my owl. And you could say, here's all of the gear. Go sell the stuff that I don't need, and I can keep going through this dungeon. And the dungeons were like randomly generated. It's a really, really fun game. And I'll bet you can probably get it pretty cheap if you want to try it out, because it's old and a really, really fun game. But I just thought that we would talk about some of these older games. Are you a fan of the ARPG genre?
So I remember, and I kind of wish that I didn't get rid of it, but I had the Diablo 2 remastered edition, like a physical PC release. That came with like the big box and everything, dude. Yeah, and I literally in my 20s I was like, I'm never gonna use this again. So I traded it in to GameStop. One of the few times that I actually traded something in, because most of I have a crap ton of physical stuff here. My wife, is not a fan, but I definitely that was one of the ones that I tried, and it was because my friend who works at EA, ironically, he was like, dude, you gotta try this out. This is really good, blah, blah, blah. And he, sings to high praises. He's a huge Diablo fan, tried to get me to play Diablo 4 when that came out. And I was just like, nothing, this doesn't fit, it doesn't feel right. So I haven't played too many ARPGs. The first, and I wouldn't even consider it an ARPG, would be, Baldur's Gate 3 was the first one that actually I dove in and put in hours.
Oh yeah, that's not an ARPG at all. Because that's a turn-based RPG.
That's it is a turn-based RPG 100%. So it's there's nothing else that I've played on PC that is similar to Diablo, that is
that's
really
fair.
Caught my attention.
Well, I think, if you didn't like Diablo, you might not like Torchlight. But if you can get Torchlight really cheap, I think Torchlight 2 definitely is really, really good. Torchlight 1 was decent. Torchlight 2 was a huge step up. And then Torchlight 3 was a huge step down from there. But that game came out 12 years ago. And so I just thought that we would talk about that for a minute. All right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm looking at it right now. It's $20 for Torchlight 2, 15 for Torchlight 1.
I would wait until it goes on sale.
Yeah, that seems like something that would be on sale.
Right. $20. It's a great game, but as you're somebody who doesn't love ARPGs, you should definitely wait for it to be $5.
All right. That sounds fantastic.
Well, it's a really good game, but it's not your jam. So, you know.
Fair.
All right. We've got some upcoming games. We've got 3 upcoming games that are coming out very, very soon. We've got Hades 2, which is actually kind of already out. I already own it because I bought the early access. That's coming to the Nintendo Switch and the 1.0 version. It will finally be officially released. I bought it, played it for, 5 hours or so. And then I said, you know what? I got to stop and just wait for the full game. Again, this is a game that you're not going to like because it's an ARPG. So you should probably... Yeah, it's an ARPG.
I love
Hades. Do you
Hades,
like Hades?
But, yeah, dude, I love Hades, but it's also a roguelike. So it's I like the loop. The gameplay loop is fantastic. Is Torchlight similar in terms of that gameplay roguelike? Oh.
Yeah, you're going into randomized dungeons and getting loot. And then the thing is when you die, you don't... Okay, it's not a roguelike. It's got randomized stuff. It's got randomized world.
Yeah.
But it's when you die, your character, you just respawn and back in town, and then you go back out to what you were doing. That's the difference between them. But the action of playing it, I would say, is very similar to Torchlight.
Gotcha. Okay, then I might actually enjoy it, because Hades 1, dude, I put in... I don't even know how many hours into it. And Hades 2, I was in the earlier, before they even started selling previews. I was part of the early
nice.
Early testers. And I could only play, I think it was a limited amount of time, if I remember correctly. And I played it on the Steam Deck, absolutely loved it. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy this. And then when they released the preview, I was like, hold on, I want to go really deep into this. I'm going to wait until they actually release the 1.0 before, everything else, because it's just, I love Hades 1 was fantastic, man.
It was.
And I didn't even technically finish it, because, you have to do multiple runs, and there's story and lore that's shared after each and every single run. So, I finished it, I think, twice. And then I was like, all right, I gotta play something else at this point because I don't have that much time to dedicate to it. Again, average gamer. I'm not like a hardcore gamer at all. So, but yeah, dude, I'm excited for Hades 2.
So now that it's 1.0, are you going to go back to it, or did you already play it like a lot?
No, I'm definitely going to go back to it.
Definitely
like 100%. I played
right away?
I think. No. Oh my God, Bill. So I have Silk Song. That's like, I was talking to one of the guys on like my Discord about this. There's so many good games that are coming out right now. Final Fantasy Tactics is coming out, which is, if you like if you like SRPGs, that's like another one to like look into. What else is there? I'm like scrolling up on the Discord, just checking it out right now. There's Digimon if you're into that. Again, turn-based. Ninja Gaiden 4 if you like action games. Chronos if you like horror games that are there. And then Silent Hill F. I'm looking forward to that. I was going to in the summer, I was looking at fall and I was like, oh man, I'm totally going to play Metal Gear Solid Delta. And then, it came out and I was like, you know what? This is just going to have to wait. If I'm going to re-experience this remaster, the way that everyone says, I already know what's going to happen. I don't need to like experience anything here again. So yeah, man, Chronos is probably going to be my next game because it's a horror game and those tend to be short. And it's in the same vein as like Dead Space and Resident Evil, so I'm definitely going to go into that. And then there's Resident Evil Requiem that's coming out, and there's like so.
When does that come out anyway? I can't remember.
If I remember correctly, it's Q1 of next year, but it's February 27th, 2026. So it's like so many games, not enough time. I don't know how people do this.
Here, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm curious because when Chronos got announced, and I saw it, I was like, "Oh, is this another of the Ashes games?" Because there's a Chronos game that I played called Chronos Before the Ashes, and it's not. It's a completely unrelated. But as somebody who likes roguelikes, I think that you might enjoy Chronos Before the Ashes, which I'm going to put on screen right now for the people watching over at youtube.com/nerdnest. It's a roguelike, third-person action game, very Souls-like combat kind of thing. But the mechanic is very, very interesting because what happens is each run, your character gets older. Okay. And as you age, you become less good at physical combat, but you get better at magic combat. And so the way that you have to play over time changes. And it's got this really strange world. I never played the first one, but this one is really weird because like at the beginning, you're in what seems like the real world and you're investigating this weird science experiment that's going on, and then you end up getting sucked through a portal and you end up in this world where you have to fight with like a sword and board or whatever. Have you ever checked this game out?
No, man. But I am. So there are like a lot of like services where you can like get games to like try out on hardware. I'm seeing if it's on there right now. But what I was going to say is that this it kind of reminds me of like Sifu. Did you ever, or Sifu? It's Sifu. Did you ever play
I
that?
know about it, but I haven't played it. But I have heard that you age in that game too.
Right. And that's one thing that I was like, that kind of reminds me of it a little bit. But I don't see it on this. So I mean, it's, it came out in 2020. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. I mean, for me, I'm always interested in like games that like try new mechanics, and like changing your game's play style as you like progress it's interesting because there are some people that just prefer to be mages and some people that prefer to, be the melee brawler or whatever it may be. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you don't get to pick. I mean, you get to put your points where you want, but the older you get, the less good you are at physical stuff, which is true.
Yeah, I was like, it's just like real life.
Yeah, just like real life. The other games that are coming out, we'll talk about whichever one you are more interested in. Ghost of Yotei or Battlefield 6. Those are the other two games that are coming out like next week.
Well, here's the thing, man. So Battlefield 6, I haven't played like an FPS game like that, like an army style one in like ages. Last one that I played was, I think, like COD. I think it was Modern Warfare 2, I think. I mean, it's been forever. But if I were to pick one, it would probably be Ghost of Yotei, but I'm not going to buy it like right then and there because of all the stuff that's coming out. Also, I'm kind of hoping that in a year from now, it's going to come to Steam. That's what I'm hoping for.
Is it not coming to Steam right away? I didn't realize that. That makes me sad.
No, I don't think it is, man. I think the only game that Sony has released simultaneously on both Steam and PlayStation is Helldivers 2. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments.
You're right. Because it's multiplayer, this is a single player game. I forgot that it was Sony, even though we're watching the trailer on PlayStation's website.
Oh man. But yeah, I want it to come out on Steam. That's why, Death Stranding 2 was another one that like came out and I was like, all right, I wouldn't mind giving it a go. But I'm just gonna wait until it comes to Steam. I'm in no rush whatsoever to play that on PlayStation.
See, I have a PS5 that just like my Xbox just sits there because I play mostly on PC. And I don't know, man. Like, just looking at this footage makes me want to, like, because I had a lot of fun with the first one. I didn't beat it because beating games is for other people. But this game, just like the first one, I had so much fun with. And all of the different weapons that you're getting in this just look so fun. And my favorite thing about the world was just how in the moment it made you feel, how immersive it was, because there's no UI and you're just, you're just experiencing this world and it looks like you're watching cutscenes, but you're playing the game. And I love the way how, like, when you want to go a certain direction, the wind blows through the reeds and tells you that's the direction that you're supposed to go. Like, that kind of stuff is very appealing to me. And then the fact that they also have like Kurosawa mode where it's in black and white and the sound sounds kind of old time movies, all of that is very, very appealing to me. I think that I want to pick this up right away. I don't think I want to wait, but
that's fine. I mean, that's fair. Like, I think, the reason why I'm kind of like hesitant is just because I'm already going to have so much on my plate anyways. Yeah. And like, that's why I'm kind of be like, okay, let me be selective with like where I'm putting my money, because I used to 2 or 3 years ago, no, 4 years ago, me and my buddy were running, a channel together, and we literally were like, all right, let's see who can finish the most games by the end of the year. So I don't even know how many games. I think it was like 30 or something like that. But I like churned through like these huge titles over and over. That was the year that I finished Persona 5 Royal, which is like a minimum 115, 120 hour JRPG.
That's long.
Yeah, dude. It's long. It's addictive though. The gameplay is really good.
I did just buy it. It was on Humble Bundle, so I got it real cheap.
Yes. I know. Okay. Have you ever played a Persona game?
No, mostly because they take place in a high school, and I'm a high school teacher, and so like that like always in my head, I'm like, I don't want to, like, I do that for a job. I don't want to go there again. But
no, that's fair.
I've heard nothing but really good things about the Persona series. I think I have Persona 4 Golden, Persona, like I keep getting them through Humble Bundle because they're always in there, and so I have a bunch of them. I loaded it up the other day and I played the beginning right up until, spoilers for this older game, you get arrested. I got up to like that point at the very beginning. I was like, okay, that was really cool. I like the combat. The menus in this game are so fun. I love the way it just animates everything all over the place. Very, very cool. But, you saying it's 150 hours, that makes me want to not fire it up again.
That's fair. I mean, dude, it's a commitment. That's why I was like, at that time, I was streaming, on the channel, and like we had like an internal bet on the server whether or not I would be able to finish it within a month. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna do this. It was a challenge, and I finished it literally hours before the deadline. I will say, if you do like, that style of animation and that combat, I would recommend Metaphor Refantasio. It's a shorter game made by the same developer. It's just not in the Persona world, but a lot of the same, mechanics are in there. And the animation style is of the menus and everything is like chef's kiss. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that's another one that's been on my radar. I think they didn't win Game of the Year last year, but it won. It won a lot of stuff, didn't it? Yeah. It won a lot of stuff last year.
Yeah, and it's significantly shorter than a Persona game, so you'd probably enjoy it. You'd be able to get through it.
All right. Well, I'm not going to buy it because I'm about to buy Ghosts of Yotei, but I'll wait and maybe pick it up sometime soon. All right. Yeah. Rudy, tell people what you're working on and where they can find your stuff.
Gotcha. I just got my MSI Claw 8 AI Plus back from an RMA order. So I'm going to be doing some stuff on that because I never got a chance to look at the updated performance with the 258V, man.
Which Kerry said that it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I saw his video on it, and I was like, God dang, man! Like, I want that now. But it was, all the way in California. So thankfully, it came in yesterday, and I'm going to pop that open, mess with that. And I've also got another Anberdic. This guy, the RG, what is this? 476H that I've got to get through as well. But yeah, if you want to find me online at Baldly, BALDLY, Rudy, everywhere.
There you go. Go and subscribe to him. There'll be a link down below so you don't have to type anything in. Just click on the thing in the show notes and you guys can check it out. And you guys could have been anywhere, but you decided to hang out with us for the last hour, 40 minutes, and I appreciate that. So thanks for watching. Stay rad, everybody. Bye-bye.